Oh my god, it flipped it over. Not really what I was expecting, but alright. Hello and welcome back to SnowRunner, y'all, and in this video, before we get started, I just want to go ahead and clarify a few things right here at the top before we go any further. First of all, there are going to be a lot of different mods used in this video, so many that if we linked all of them, the description would be so full it would be insane. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a little bit of a description down there about each mod, and whether or not it's available on PC or console, where you can get it, how you can access it, things like that, because there are some that are publicly available, there are some that are not, and there are some that are available only on certain systems but not on others. So if you're curious about any of the specific mods used in this video, please refer to what I'll have in the description down below. Now, we've done some vehicle comparison videos where we've gone up in vehicle size in the past, but we've never done one on this map specifically, and I've always wanted to do one out here because this map has some really good obstacles that I think can apply to vehicles ranging from tiny to absolutely massive. Now, we don't really have any tiny vehicles in this lineup. We have some that are, you know, kind of normal-sized vehicles, and we have others that are extremely just massive. But what we're going to do is we're going to head out to the main area of West Georgia Mud Park where all of the vehicles are going to be lined up with each other. And we're going to smash into a tree and catch our back tire. Okay. What a great way to start things off. I love it. And this truck's not even in the competition, so it's not like we even have to worry about this one. Now, we're going to be using a few more vehicles than we have in the past. Obviously, we're going to be using some vehicles that are a little older that we've used before, like the Megabus, the Monstrosity, but some of the other vehicles that we're going to be using haven't really been compared to any of these others before. Now, I'm also going to give y'all a quick frame rate warning because the frame rate in this video may dip at times, and that is because, well, if you look at the lineup of trucks on the screen, you could probably figure out why there are going to be frame rate dips from time to time. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to start with the smallest truck in this lineup, and then we're going to work our way up the list, and we're going to do a couple of different obstacles here in the main West Georgia Mud Park area. Now, we've got this one, the upcoming, well, I shouldn't say upcoming, because as of recording this video, it's not on console yet, but when you see it, it might already be. This is John Hot Rod's Ram 3500, and then, of course, we have the even larger six-door version of the Mega Cab. We have Monster Max 1, Monster Max 2, we have the Fun Runner Max, which is basically modified to its maximum potential. Then we have the Monstrosity, then we have the Megabus, which those have also been completely gone through and modified. These are all running the most power that they possibly can and the most grip that they possibly can. Now, let's go ahead and fire this one up, and we'll start our first lap of our test circuit. Now, this first obstacle tends to stop most vehicles, so we're kind of getting it out of the way right off the bat, and we're going to try to keep this somewhat fair. So we're going to approach this first obstacle right at the start, and then just absolutely let it rip, and if it gets stuck, it's going to stay there. If it doesn't get stuck, it'll move on to a future obstacle. So let's see. 3, 2, 1, let's go. Truck takes a little bit to get going sometimes. We'll put it back into automatic mode, and is it really already stuck? I literally put the most over-the-top setup I possibly could on this truck, and we've already gotten it stuck. That's not really off to a great start for all of the others in this test. Maybe I should have saved this obstacle for later. Alright, well, we're going to grab the Mega Cab Runner, the six-door version of this truck, next, which, ironically, this one was released before the other one was, so is it technically the larger version of the same truck, or is the other one the smaller version of this truck? I'm not really sure. You can decide that in the comment section down below. Now, whether or not this one's gonna make it depends entirely on whether or not we can keep our momentum going. So I'm gonna cross my fingers and hope for the best with this one. Let's go. Oh, it only made it, well, it's still going. It hasn't gotten to a point where it's stopped yet. So if it hasn't stopped yet, we're probably okay. Oh, just a little bit further. Oh, it's already through the deeper part. Oh, dude, this thing absolutely destroys this obstacle. I haven't even really been messing with the settings on this truck either. I've just been letting the automatic mode do its thing. I mean, every once in a while, you can tap the clutch button to see if it will shift, but it really doesn't need it. It really doesn't ever even need you to touch anything. It just does what it's gonna do. All right, let's go ahead and flip this thing around and see if we can make our way back down this way at speed without flipping it over. We're going to have to rotate the camera a little bit because the frame rate suffers when we... Whoa! Okay, maybe we shouldn't have put it in high. Putting it in high was probably a massive mistake. We've got an offline winch on it for a reason. Keep that in mind. But I'm just going to go ahead and back it up the rest of the way, because before we go and do any other obstacles, we're going to move on to the next truck, and the reason for that is I want to be able to switch up trucks a lot in this video. I don't want to spend like a ton of time on one and then a ton of time on the next. So now, we're going to do that same circuit, or rather like little mini circuit, in Monster Max 1, and I have a feeling that this thing will do pretty well. This does pretty well on just about whatever obstacle you throw it at. And there's not much that's ever stood in this thing's way. I mean, apart from, you know, an ocean, because it has trouble with that. Unless you put the flotation kit on it, which the flotation kit only works sometimes. When it works really well. But when it doesn't work, you just kind of sit in one place and spin. I mean, this thing just absolutely floated through here, though. I'm kind of curious as to whether or not Monster Max 2 is going to do better or worse, because it's so much heavier. I mean, yes, the tires are larger and taller, but it's so much heavier, and at the end of the day, it might end up just sinking. Let's go ahead and flip you back around. Oh, this thing is really, really hard to keep going in the direction that you want it to go because of the four-wheel steer when you're running the max power tune. Oh, dude, it is so well set up on the way back, though. Like, it doesn't bounce around at all. Now, granted, we probably could have put a better suspension tune on the Mega Cab, and the reason why it's got the hauling-focused suspension is because I wanted it to sit as high as possible, because I knew we were going to be dealing with mud, and when you've got your suspension a little bit higher up, it tends to help in this game, especially with the way the physics work. So now let's see if Monster Max 2 decides it wants to actually make it, or if it just wants to sink. I'm kind of 50-50 on it, to be honest, because I've never really taken it out here. Like, I've taken it to some other maps, and I've taken it through some muddy areas, but nothing quite like this. It's slow. Don't get me wrong, it's really slow, but it will make it. And actually, I thought it was going to go farther in high range than the other one did, because the other one, it went a pretty good ways in high range and then instantly started spinning. This one more gradually pulled back speed. And when it gradually pulls back speed like that, you have to wonder if it's like, okay, am I just running into a little bit of resistance in the mud, or am I running to a lot of, like, you know, drivetrain resistance, and am I going to stall? All right, let's make our way back. See if we can keep it in high in this section. This section's tricky, and it's a lot trickier than you might think, because as we saw with the Mega Cab, it will absolutely just loop you. Or at least it will loop you if you get it wrong. We almost flipped this thing. Talking about looping the other truck, this thing looped, well, almost looped pretty dang fast. All right, now, the FunRunner Max. Now, the FunRunner Max is a weird one, because the FunRunner Max it didn't get anywhere near as much initial attention when it came out as a lot of the other really, really big trucks. And I'm not sure quite why that is. Maybe it's because it was based on a toy truck and not a real truck. Maybe it was because of some other reason entirely. Maybe it's because it's like, you know, it's so cartoony within the space that maybe some people didn't necessarily like the look of, like, you know, the life-size plastic tires. Maybe that wasn't really the look that people were interested in. But let's find out what this thing will do. Oh, this thing doesn't even care. It just rips. That was honestly probably the easiest time anything has had with that obstacle so far. It literally didn't even care about the mud. I mean, I had to, like, lift off the throttle just a little bit, but I mean, it has so much grip and so much low-end torque that it really doesn't even worry about it. God, and making its way back, I mean, the suspension is so compliant that it just soaks up everything. And you can just about go as fast as you want as well. Now, here's where things get interesting, because now we're into, like, the really cartoonishly huge vehicles of the lineup, because you thought this was cartoonish, but here's the thing. People will complain about the FunRunner Max being cartoonish, but then they'll be like, well, the Monstrosity is one of the best trucks ever made. And I'm like, it confuses me, because isn't this one a little bit more cartoony than that one? I mean, I would think it is, because it's like, you know, 2 stories tall, and the tires would need a crane, or probably 2 to even move them. But this is probably not going to get stuck. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and drive over the mega cab just to do it. Oh my god, it flipped it over. Not really what I was expecting, but alright. Alright, let's go ahead and bring this thing back around the other way without flipping it, please and thank you. I'm really scared to drive this thing fast, because once it gets, like, it's so tall that once it gets away from the balance that it likes to have, it just starts tumbling. Yeah, this thing didn't really even care. I wasn't really worried about the drive back, admittedly. I was more worried about the main obstacle that we had to go through at first. And if this had that easy of a time with it, this is probably going to have an even easier time. Because this thing never really has any issues with it. Oh my god. The only thing it has issues with is balance. I love how the Mega Cab is now just sitting in the middle. It's just literally sitting in the middle of the obstacle, just doing nothing. Yeah, so that was basically a puddle, and it wasn't even there. And we're going to have to take, like, 3 years to turn this thing around. Well, maybe not quite 3 years, but as long as we take care when we're turning it around, that we don't flip it over and cause it to tumble, we'll be fine. All right, let's give it some beans the opposite direction. Again, it doesn't really act like anything's even there. Now, one thing that I do want to do before we wrap this up is we need to get back into the Monstrosity, and we need to hit that jump back there. And it's not really, it doesn't look like a jump, it's just built into the terrain, but trust me, with these vehicles being so large, they're probably going to fly far enough to clear all of the others in this entire comparison. Well, I don't know if I would quite put money on it, but I would guess that they're going to fly far enough to do that. I'm going to actually get away from the mud, because I feel like if I try to launch through the mud, I'll probably just run into issues. Oh my god, come on! Oh yeah, that's going to easily clear. Dude, we didn't even touch them. We didn't even come close to, well, we came pretty close to touching them, but did we? Oh my god. There's no way I could have planned that any better. I mean, the light pole probably helped us, but, I mean, other than the light pole, I do not ask me to repeat that. All right, we're going to try the same thing in the Megabus, and I'm kind of 50-50 on whether or not it's going to go any farther. I have a feeling that it might go a little farther, but I highly doubt it's going to land on its tires. If it lands upright on its tires, I'm just going to call it, and I'm never going to attempt this jump with either of these two again, because I don't think I would ever be able to line up that consistent of a landing. Let's go! Oh, no. Oh, God, it actually didn't make it. I mean, it made it. It landed on its wheels, but it didn't make it quite as far as the Monstrosity did, and that's probably because it didn't have as much room to get up to speed. But if y'all enjoyed this video, make sure to let me know your thoughts and opinions and which truck was your favorite in the comments down below. And if you're new around here, hit that subscribe button to turn those notifications on. I will see y'all next time.